When I was a child, I lived with my grandfather and my little sister, Emily. Our house was small, old, and quiet, but to us, it was everything. Grandfather took care of us with gentle hands and a warm heart. He cooked simple meals, told us stories at night, and always reminded us to be kind and strong. I felt safe under his roof, and Emily, though young, always laughed when grandfather spoke. Life was simple then, full of routine, comfort, and love. Every morning, he woke us up early, prepared breakfast, and sent us to school with a smile on his face. "Eat well, grow strong," he used to say. He would stand at the door and wave until we disappeared down the street. Emily dreamed of becoming a doctor, and I dreamed of becoming a pilot. In the park after school, we would sit under the big tree, share our hopes, and laugh together. Life felt good, almost perfect. But one morning, everything changed. The house was strangely quiet. There was no smell of food, no sound of grandfather moving around. My heart raced as I walked to his room. He was lying in bed, awake but weak, his face pale and his body tired. He tried to smile and whispered, "I am okay," but I knew he was not. Emily held my hand tightly, her eyes full of fear. For the first time, I felt the weight of something bigger than me, loss. We ran to the neighbor for help, and soon an ambulance arrived. Watching the doctors lift grandfather onto a stretcher broke something inside me. The house felt empty without him, too quiet to bear. At the hospital, Emily and I sat in the waiting room, the bright lights pressing down on us. Hours passed like days until finally a doctor came. His words were kind but heavy. "Your grandfather is sick and weak. He needs rest." When we saw him, lying on the hospital bed with tubes in his arms, my heart ached. Yet when he opened his eyes and smiled, he still called us my little ones. He told us to be brave and to take care of each other. His voice was soft but firm, and I knew he was preparing us for a future we didn't want to face. The days that followed were hard. The house felt lifeless without grandfather's presence. I tried to make breakfast, but the food was never the same. Emily picked at her plate and whispered, "It doesn't taste like his." School felt heavy too. I could not focus. My mind was stuck in that hospital room. At night, the phone rang. The nurse's voice said, "Your grandfather is stable, but he must stay here longer." Emily and I visited him whenever we could. He always smiled when he saw us, even though he was weak. He would ask, "Are you eating well?" And I would nod, though the truth was different. Inside, I knew things had changed forever. One evening, as I looked at Emily sitting silently on the sofa, hugging her knees, I realized something. We could not keep waiting. Grandfather was sick, and we had no money, no one else to depend on. We needed food, we needed strength, and above all, Emily needed someone to protect her. That night, I made a decision. After school, I would find work. When I told Emily, she looked worried and said, "But you're just a boy. Who will give you a job?" I didn't know, but I promised her I would try. The next day, I walked through the busy streets searching. Shop after shop turned me away. At a bakery, the smell of fresh bread filled the air, but the man behind the counter shook his head. "Too young," he said. My heart sank, but I kept going. At a small grocery store, a woman was arranging vegetables on a shelf. When I asked her, she paused, looked at me carefully, then sighed. "I cannot pay much," she said, "but you can help me clean." My heart lifted instantly. I agreed, and that evening I returned home, tired but proud. Emily's eyes lit up when I showed her the small coins I earned. We went to the market together, buying bread, milk, fruit, and a little cheese. For the first time, I felt a new kind of strength. Every day after school, I worked at the grocery store. I swept dusty floors, carried heavy boxes, and wiped shelves until my arms ached. The pay was small, but to me, it meant food, survival, and hope. Emily was proud of me. She told me the breakfast I made was getting better, even if it was simple. Her smile gave me energy to keep going. Slowly, the sadness in our house began to soften. It was still quiet, but not as empty as before. We were building something new, our own way of living. Then one day, good news arrived. The hospital called to say grandfather was improving. Soon he would come home. Emily and I ran through the house with joy, the heaviness lifting from our hearts. When we finally saw him again, his steps were slower, his body weaker, but his eyes still carried love. He listened as we told him everything, how I had found work, how Emily helped at home, how we managed to take care of ourselves. His smile grew wide, his voice full of pride. "You have grown," he said softly. "I am proud of you." In that moment, I realized something. Life would never be the same as before, but we had started a new life, a life where Emily and I had learned strength, responsibility, and courage. We were no longer just children waiting for help. We had become a family that stood together, no matter how hard the days became. When we finally saw him again, his steps were slower, his body weaker, but his eyes still carried love. He listened as we told him everything, how I had found work, how Emily helped at home, how we managed to take care of ourselves. His smile grew wide, his voice full of pride. "You have grown," he said softly. "I am proud of you." In that moment, I realized something. Life would never be the same as before, but we had started a new life, a life where Emily and I had learned strength, responsibility, and courage. We were no longer just children waiting for help. We had become a family that stood together, no matter how hard the days became. From that day forward, I carried his words in my heart. Every morning, when I woke up, I reminded myself that challenges do not mean the end of life. They mean the beginning of growth. And so, step by step, day by day, we built our new life with love, hope, and strength.